Hey, what's going on everybody? Boilon here, and I hope that you're all having a great weekend, and welcome to another video on Lord of the Rings Home. Today, I want to talk about what I'm doing in my roster on the lead up to Arwen's event, which is going to be happening next week. I want to talk about what's going on in my roster, though. A lot of people have been asking me what I'm doing right now, and I've talked about this, briefly in other videos, and I just kind of want to, I'm kind of treating this as a journey, right? We're all kind of on that journey up to level 60, which I believe is the level cap, and sort of how I'm taking my roster up and what my plans are every couple of days, because that's basically how long it takes for me to get a level now, maybe a little bit more now at 7,000 XP. But nonetheless, I kind of want to go over, what I've been up to, what I'm going to continue to do, and how I'm preparing for these new releases of the elves next week. So if you're ready to go, everybody, then let's boil this down. And one thing really quickly that I do want to start with is the arena. Now, I'm slipping a little bit. As you can see, I'm currently gold 1, rank 97. Normally I'm like a lot further down, and I only have one attack. It's not that I'm failing attacks, it's that I'm being pushed back as well. I don't know, maybe you guys are targeting me in Shard 1 because I do videos, or you don't like me, or whatever. But nonetheless, what I'm doing right now with my account levels is that I'm putting it into these characters still, but I'm not putting any gear in. So I think in the short term, I'm going to be slipping in my arena. And the reason for that is because I'm not convinced that these characters are going to be... We've kind of turned it into the meta for the most part, the Rohan 3, especially free to play. But I'm not convinced that long term, especially as we level out around level 60, it's going to be more about the actual characters than it is going to be your level and gear tier, which it is right now. For the most part, people who are succeeding well in Arena actually has very little to do with the characters that you're building. What it has to do with is how high level they are, how high their gear tier is, and so on. And you can see, for example, Return of the Krang here. I'm just someone I just pointed out here. They have a 4,200 Ironhide Troll. That's very high, and I believe this is gear tier, I want to say 7 or 8. I think it's 8, actually, in fact, because I have 7. So I'm pretty sure these are 8, like that Halbrad over here, I believe, is 8 as well. And so these people are, putting into the same team, pretty much. Some people are going Shadow, some people are going Rohan. Very occasionally you see, what would appear to be like a whale team, just because it's hard to unlock those characters free to play. But nonetheless, there's I would say little variation. There's slight variations in the arena, but not a whole lot. And I think a lot of people are probably just doing the same, maybe as me. Some people may be investing gear into them, but I stopped doing that. Now, my Ironhide Troll is at gear 7. The rest of my characters at gear 6. So they are starting to slip. But in the second half of this video, I want to talk about the requirements for gearing, like how many crystals that you actually require to get them up, and why I'm saving them, because I think that the meta, if there is going to be an arena meta, I think it's going to emerge closer to level 60, or I think it's going to include characters like the elves, who are going to be on their way out over the next month, because we're going to be getting Arwen, and then presumably after that point we're going to be getting Elladan. I don't know if there's going to be some sort of gap in between before they release him, and then of course we're farming, or some of us are farming towards Elrond, and that's going to form largely a full 5-man team, I guess. I'm not a big fan of Lomian. Who knows what I'll do with that slot. Maybe I'll just put Ironhide Troll in there for the arena, because why not? But maybe Elrond's ability, if I do happen to get Elrond, will be just so OP that you'll want to include Lomian anyways. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of him, as I pointed out before. So that's what's going on with my arena. What's going on with my roster? Well, I have some characters at the top that I'm, focusing on in terms of I'm working on, both with shards and otherwise. You know what? I'll go over my shard farm stuff, what I've been up to. As you can see, I have Elro here unlocked, and he's 49 out of 80. So I have managed to farm almost 150 shards in the last... since Wednesday, I think, when we had the announcement, the news announcement about Arwen. So I've been doing... and the patch that we had. So that's quite good. That's like, what, 3 days? That's a pretty good progress. I pretty much said that I could probably do this in about a week, but keep in mind that I have been, doing 2 100 gem refreshes in the guild campaign every single day. So it's not free to play as such. Keep that in mind. But, I've been tracking the drop rates on the character shards, and then that's actually pretty interesting as well. Naramiri, I'm not doing anything with. I will move to Narimiri after Elrohir is done, and then hopefully after that I can get back to farming Guild Campaign Chapter 4, because that's a lot more purple ability materials. So, Lomian, shard farming, Leliel, shard farming. I am trying to get these in twice a day, because I don't want to spend real money on these characters for shards. I am considering, dropping some money in this game, but it's largely been in the form of gem packs. So I bought one gem pack, the level 40 gem pack that you might see. It was about, I think it was $20 US, maybe $25 US. I spent 35 Canadian or something like that. And that's all I've done to date on this account. Also, I'm shard farming Eothane still and Eowyn as part of the quest lines, because you need to have characters at higher star levels. So that's just a slow thing that I'm going to be doing. But outside of that, I'm farming light crystals more than I am shadow crystals. I haven't really put in a lot of effort to farm shadow crystals at this point, because I'm gearing up to wanting to build the elves. Now, I have Elrohir at gear 4. I'm not going to really just, pull the trigger at this point in time yet for too many of them, but I am stacking up my light crystals slowly. I have 55 right now, and some catalysts along the way that I'm buying as well, because I want to get these characters up to, I want to get the elves when they unlock to about gear tier 6. Now, of course, I'm trying not to gear some of these characters I don't want to, like Narimiri and Leliel, because they're not Rivendell elves, so I'm reluctant to put any gear until I have to. So that's just things I'm saving up for right now ahead of some of the events. Lomian, again, I talked about how I didn't really like it. Now, when I talk about light crystals, it's really important to talk about supplies. I am spending in the gold store quite a bit. Actually, just refreshed since the last time I looked. So, you know what? I am buying these things. A lot of the supply store I am spending on. And you might wonder, Boilon, why are you doing that? And it's actually because I'm in a surplus of gold in relation to XP. Now, I've mentioned this before, so that means that there is quite a bit of gold available. In fact, you know what? I'm going to buy that too. I can spend a fair bit of gold, because with the challenges that I'm in, like the treasure trove challenge, I do have a big surplus of gold versus XP. I think I'm sitting at around 200 and something thousand XP, which leaves me with a lot of extra money to be able to buy stuff, believe it or not. It's either going to go towards buying stuff or ranking characters up. And so that would eventually become relevant at 4 to 5 star, but none of my characters are really at that stage quite yet. So I'm still doing this. Yep. And I want to have a decent amount so I don't have to spend my energy on especially some of these items, which are very low gold farm returns. So that's just what I'm doing there. I'm buying a lot of these resources, but I'm kind of targeting as well. But crystals are really important. It's such a big bottleneck in this game that it's very worth, making sure that you're keeping up to that. So with my other characters here, like I mentioned for my arena, Strider's at G6, Eowyn's at G6, Pippin actually got to G5. I only did this for a quest, by the way. Eothane G6, and Eomer G6, and Ironhide at G7. Now, to take my Ironhide from G7 to G8 is going to require a lot of shadow crystals. Do I want to do this? I'm not sure, because I'm not really focusing on my shadow characters right now, but I think I need to start doing that soon. Or at the very least, I need to start gearing up my other Isengard orcs a little bit to get me through the campaign a little bit more. And that's going to be sort of that next step, because all of them are at G5, but I feel like they need to... I don't know, there's not enough XP to take them up. So the only other thing for me to do would be to at least to gear them, I guess. I don't have a lot of, just to show you for Azak, for example, although I should be putting into Ugluk. But, for example, taking one character from 40 to 48, where I'm at right now, is 150,000 XP. I got 250,000. It's not really the gold. That's not really the issue. It's the XP that's the issue. I can't. I can't do this for any more than like 1.5 characters. And so my shadow is falling behind because they're not part of my arena meta. And maybe that's a little bit of a problem that I had for, not mixing my arena team more with some more shadow characters. I'm only 1 shadow to 4 light characters, and maybe that's some of the problem there. So I am a little bit further ahead in, I don't know why I clicked on Chagrit. I'm a little bit further ahead in the light campaign than I am in the shadow, but I feel like I need to kind of pivot back a little bit more to the shadow, and that's going to be involving maybe gear tiering some of these other characters up to 6 where possible. And to understand exactly how much of this you're going to need, I cobbled together this, what I'm going to call the crystal farm chart, and a lot of this is not super relevant, and not all of the characters are listed currently. I have mainly what I would call the main meta characters that we're focusing on right now. Some of this might not include characters that you're using, but this this is characters that we're commonly seeing or people are commonly using, especially on that free-to-play path. And the reason why I did this was just to give you guys a better idea of how many crystals, light crystals and shadow crystals, which are down below a little bit, in terms of how many you need per gear tier. Now, when it says G4, this means you're going from G4 to G5. So you're currently at G4 and you're trying to get to G5. Same thing, G5 to G6, G6 to G7, 7 to 8. And then this is the last one, which is 8 to 9. 9 is the current cap that also requires purple gear. Doesn't require a lot of blue crystals. This is primarily a blue crystal chart. So you can see right here yourself. So take, for example, Elro here versus Arwen, or even Elro here in Lomian versus Arwen. There's a slight variation in the amount of crystals that you need. But broadly, I would say that from G4 to 5, it's like 20 or so crystals, and then it jumps by 20 each time. You know, it's somewhere in the 40-ish range, 60-ish range, 80-ish range, and then this is the grand total for a character for blue crystals, which is a lot. You remember you saw my Elro here, I had 54. So I can't even take my Elro here to gear 6. One character, that's all I have. I can't even take one character to G6. So if I'm expecting to take Elro here and Eladin when he comes out and Elrond when he comes out, I need a lot of light crystals, and it makes me realize how many of these crystals you actually need to gear tier up your characters, you know, when I only have one gear 7 and a bunch of gear 6s, and how many crystals that cost me to even do that. You know, so it's about 60-ish to get to gear 6, and it's about 120-ish to get to gear 7. So for my Ironhide Troll, that's how many shadow crystals that I had put in to get there. Now, some of the other characters down below here, what I call the Rohan 3, Eowyn, Eomer, and Eothen, they're pretty consistent, I would say. And largely, most of the characters are pretty consistent across the board. It's nothing too big. I just wanted to do this anyways. Halbarad and Strider, because those are two characters that I see quite frequently as well. And Strider actually requires a little bit more. So some characters require a little bit more than others. As far as the shadow characters go, that's down here. Now, I realize I haven't listed that many, sorry. And that's the Isengard 5, depending on how many of them you're building, because this is one of the most common builds right now for the shadow characters. They're easily accessible. The first 3 are easily accessible, free to play, and some people are including the others. Ironhide Troll, again, very easily accessible in the guild campaign. And so you can see that, again, it's not too much variation. Some of the most expensive ones are actually Ugluk and a Troll Brute. So Troll Brute is the free-to-play unfriendly one. Malhur the Brute, Malhur the Brute, the one that gives the defense down AoE. I've just labeled him as Troll Brute, but nonetheless, yeah, he's one of the more expensive characters, and Ugluk as well, being the main leader of the Isengard. I haven't included too many more, but I'll probably add as I go along. This is more of just an example to show you guys that this is how many crystals that it requires you across the board to get to these gear tiers. And it's a lot, you know, it's a lot of things. And one thing that I'm working on, and you know, if there's anyone out there that deals with infographics who are good at design, please hit me up, because I would love to be able to do this in a more infographic way so that I can post this onto, you know, my Discord and share with the community. That would really, really help. Now, this is going to look like an absolute mess, but what I wanted to show you here is that different characters have different gear pieces. So in Marvel Strike Force terms, this is origin gear. I don't know what this is in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, but in Marvel Strike Force terms, different characters are prescribed a set of gear pieces. And this is the Gear 4-5 kind of gear pieces. You might have seen them: crests, tabards, tokens, runes, and medallions. Now, different characters require different things. And some of them actually use more than one. But for example, Elro here uses a lot of tokens. And because I've been kind of looking at him more recently, just to give you an example, when you click on one of his gear pieces, not the unique, but if you look at like these, for example, you need an ink, which is tokens. So there's a lot of this on every single piece, tokens. So you need a lot of these. That's what I would dub as origin gear. Again, don't really know what the Star Wars equivalent of that is. And this is only relevant for like gear 4 and 5, but when you go further down to like gear 6 and above, that's when you get into these items. And you might have seen some of them. I have pictures for this set here, the Cotton Jasper of Blessings. I took this from LotR.gg. They do have icons for that, same icons as in-game. And so, for example, for these characters, it's Halbarad, Eowyn, and Dinhar from the Shadow team. And I'm just going to move them back over here. And the Candle, Turquoise, and Indigo, you might have seen this quite frequently because characters like Strider, Ugluk, Ironhide, they all require this as well, and so does Elro here. So this is for gear tier 6 and above. And then there's more, there's Opal, Chalks, and Branch for Eomer and Malher, among other characters, probably, but these are the main characters that, you know, you're likely to see. Topaz, Sigil, and Tar. This is for Eothane and Robel. I don't know why. From the Haradrim, some people are building her. And then finally, there's Iron, Pact, and Onyx. And this is for not many characters right now, or at least not that I've listed. Bolg and Azhak. You know, not too many characters. But there's different sets of gear for different characters. And I really want to sort of make an infographic of this that lists these items to these characters. So that if you're trying to like mass farm for specific characters, these are the items that you need. But it's specifically in these categories. So these 3 sets of categories, you know, for each of these are for specific characters. So you're going to need a lot of these if you're building, like, if I'm building Elro here, I'm going to need a lot of candles, turquoises, and indigos. And so exactly how many, that's a lot of extra work that I need to put in that I haven't done yet in terms of my tables. But, you know, hopefully this gives you guys a good idea of kind of the things that you need to work on. If you're someone who's saving, which I am hoarding. I am the master of hoarding, known from Marvel Strike Force, because this is a game, this is a resource management game where if you want to get ahead of the meta, what the meta will be anyways, you need to save up your resources so when these characters come out, that you can build them. And that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm kind of waiting largely for Elladan. I know that I'm going to need Arwen for the team, but I really want to have like maybe an Elro here, Elladan combo, a duo there, and see what I could do with that. But Elladan's probably about 2 weeks away at this point. Nonetheless, though, I am saving my resources, and I hope that you guys are too. That way, you're not blindsided when these characters come out and you want to build them. So that's going to be the end of this video. Have a great weekend, everyone. And until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.